We are back. It's the New York Giants Squad Show. We are off and running. The Squad Show, presented by myself, Jay Berman, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. Now that the staff is complete, it's time to fix up the roster. We'll try and do that next right here on the Squad Show.
I'm Patricia Trainer of Locked On Giants, and the big piece that was missing from the coaching staff is reportedly in place.
I'm Mark Collins, two-time Super Bowl champion. Now that all the pieces of the puzzle are in order, let's go to work.
Let's go, Big Blue. It's the New York Giants Squad. Everything New York Giants every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the G-Men. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. The Giants Squad Show starts now.
All right, we are back. What an eventful couple of days it's been in Giants country. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. It's Patricia, it's Mark, it's Jay, and Patricia, now it's Matt. Matt Nagy, the new offensive coordinator of the New York Giants. That news broke just a couple of hours ago. Finally, that staff is complete.
Well, almost complete.
Almost
the main pieces are in place. Now, we know the offensive coordinator, we know the defensive coordinator, and the special teams coordinator. So those three, now from there, they can go and they can hire a full-time offensive line coach and fill in whatever else they're missing. But, this is a big hire. This was a key hire for John Harbaugh because I mentioned this on the upcoming Locked On Giants podcast. There was an interview that John Harbaugh did in which for New Jersey Advanced Media, and he was asked, why have you always gone with an experienced play caller as your offensive coordinator? And he says, well, that's because I'm more involved with the defense and special teams, so I basically kind of need somebody to run it, and not have me hold their hand. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. So Matt Nagy, he's a guy Harbaugh's familiar with. Why? They all come from that Andy Reid coaching tree. Harbaugh from Andy Reid in Philadelphia. Now Matt Nagy coming from Andy Reid's Kansas City coaching tree. So there's familiarity, there's a comfort level, and above all, I think this hire will allow that Giants offense to really hit the ground running.
Yeah, it's an interesting hire because at first we thought it would be either Mark's Cliff or Ryan Callahan, and we found out this morning it was neither of those guys, Mark.
Yeah, this one, this play was not in my playbook at all. But I get it. I understand it. And just as Patricia said, there's a lot of familiarity there. Also, don't forget, the Chiefs had the Ravens number, especially in the AFC playoff game. If they couldn't stop Matt Nagy's offense, they couldn't stop it. So why not go get him? Makes good sense. Plus, Nagy's kind of worn out his welcome in Kansas City. And don't ever think that coaches and organizations don't look at social media and news, sports news. They do. Because in Kansas City, it's been well documented that the Chiefs' offense was very stagnant. There was nothing else to it. What you see is what you got. There was nothing to it other than what you see is what you get. So Nagy's play calling got stale in Kansas City, along with injuries, but they felt they needed to make a change. They brought back Eric Bieniemy, and there's been talk about that too. And so that's why Nagy was expendable, and that's why I think the Giants and Harbaugh got him. I'm not saying that will be stale with the Giants, but sometimes you need a fresh start. And the connection with John Harbaugh and Andy Reid and Matt Nagy, it makes sense. So it works out well for the Giants. Do I think it'll work? Yeah, I think it's a great situation for all parties.
All right, so Callahan was previously a head coach. Obviously, Cliff Kingsbury was previously a head coach. Matt Nagy, previously a head coach. So obviously, Patricia, that was a very important, resume notch to have when John Harbaugh was considering OC.
Yeah, as a coordinator, you're kind of a mini head coach, if you will, of half or 1/3 of the football team. So communication is very, very important. being able to talk to different position groups. And, Matt Nagy, one of his specialties is working with a quarterback. Now, out in Kansas City, he helped Patrick Mahomes. He was with Kansas City actually twice. He helped Patrick Mahomes shape into the Patrick Mahomes we all know and love to this day. So, again, you've got a guy here who has a very creative system, who has a simple offensive system. And I mentioned this on the upcoming Lockdown on Giants. The offensive system the Giants had last year under Brian Dable was kind of complex. A lot of players told me that it was just, there were so many little intricacies that you had to learn. It made it complex. And that's why sometimes, excuse me, you saw people maybe not playing as quickly as they could. Matt Nagy's system supposedly is simpler. It's easier. It's quarterback friendly. And it's designed to really get the most out of the talent that you have.
It's interesting because the key here for all three of those guys who are finalists, Jackson Dart. I mean, that's what is the offense right now. So obviously he was the bait, if you will, and it worked out pretty well for Matt Nagy, Mark.
Yeah, if Matt Nagy could get Jackson Dart on the same page like he did with Patrick Mahomes, don't forget Eric Bieniemy was part of that as well. It'd be cool. The offense is simplistic. I go to Chiefs camp when I'm in Kansas City, so I see how it works. I've seen how he worked with Mahomes even when Bieniemy was OC. Now he's OC again. If Matt Nagy could get the same thing with Jackson Dart at this early part of his career and have that kind of run that he had with Mahomes, it'll be dynamic. What makes the offense work with it did in Kansas City, hopefully it worked well with the Giants, if Jackson Dart would just sit back and soak it in, just learn. And what I mean by learning is know when and where to check in and out of plays, where you see what Mahomes does, knowing how to read defenses. He's got to buy all in. If he could do that, I think the Giants would be very, very productive for years to come. If he doesn't, you might look for another 3-14 season.
What's also interesting is, he wants to coach again. So let's just say the Giants have a great year. He's gone. He's getting a head coaching gig. Not that we don't want that. We want a great year from the Giants. But point is, Patricia, this could be a one and done.
Yeah, that's something that I mentioned as a concern, but that's down the line.
Yeah.
What I will say about this, and I think, another thing I'll mention, and I'll mention it here, you kind of have a little continuity now with Jackson Dart. And I think that was kind of important as well for the Giants. And by that, I mean, excuse me, when Mike Kafka took over the offense after Brian Dable was dismissed, you started to see more elements from the Kansas City roots, if you will, that Kafka started to put into the game plan. So now you've got Matt Nagy coming to continue that and working with, the things that Jackson Dart does well, while maybe getting rid of some of the things that maybe were weighing the offense down. So I think that's a very underrated aspect of this hiring, and one that I like.
Mark?
Yeah, the verbiage you're exactly right. The verbiage is there. The foundation is there from that Kansas City based tree, Andy Reid kind of tree. So it's there. Now, as far as being a one and done, I don't want to pull the cart before the horse, but who Nagy or John Harbaugh brings in as a pass coordinator, coach, or whatever, under that offensive coordinator tree, whatever foundation, that could be good, because now the foundation is set, and now you're grooming the next guy just in case Nagy leaves, being a one and done. So, but that's thinking way ahead. But I like where the Giants are right now with the hire of Nagy. Now it's just time to get camp started, these OTAs going, and get the playbook going, and going from there.
There was some word that Davis Webb might have been a possibility. He decides to go back, or at least stay in Denver. He gets the promotion he wanted. He's now the OC. But it's funny how there's sort of a roller coaster effect here. When Webb takes the job, another giant possible OC falls through the cracks. Well, Nagy sort of negated that, if you will, Patricia.
Yeah, he was a guy who wasn't mentioned. I mean, we heard about Jim Bob Cooter. We heard about Cliff Kingsbury. We heard about Callahan, obviously Davis Webb. We heard Alex Tanney. But I guess if you go back and you look, again, John Harbaugh has never hired an offensive coordinator who doesn't have play calling experience. And as much as I was banging the drum for Davis Webb, because I think he's a bright young mind and he's going to be a heck of an offensive coordinator, he didn't fit that criteria. And again, if you think about it, the Giants need to hit the ground running. They need to hit the ground running. They can't afford to, okay, we're going to bring in guys that maybe we've never worked with before, and we're going to hope that it meshes. No, they need to know that it's going to mesh, that they have the best possible guys that are going to mesh together, and they need to hit the ground running. And I think that's kind of the theme. If you look at the hires that have been linked to John Harbaugh, that's kind of been a theme here, because you can trace back to just about everybody that allegedly he has hired and say he's had a prior relationship or knows somebody, who has had a prior relationship with him.
Mark.
Yeah, they got to hit the ground running. That's perfect example. They got to do it. No, they don't have time. The Giants, there's no room for, baby steps, training wheels to get these a new OC or a young OC who's one of the whiz kids to get them up and running and be ready for 3 years to have this team ready to go. They got to hit the ground running now. And the players who come in got to drink from the fire hose. They got to learn it and get it going and apply it on the field. So there's no room. There's no time for Davis Webb to ramp up to learn the position. They got the right guy. Got a guy who's a head coach and OC for a long time. Perfect fit. Let's go.
All right. Harbaugh obviously could be, and we hope is here for a long time. Now, we don't know about Joe Schoen. I feel like there might be sort of a fork in the road there in that Harbaugh's got plenty of time. We know that. But Joe Schoen doesn't. Joe Schoen's got to win. So I wonder how those two things sort of come together, Patricia, if at all.
It's interesting you bring that up, because I wondered about that myself. Joe Schoen, to my knowledge, has not received a contract extension yet. Now, there's been whispers that will come after the draft. Well, that being said, you just signed John Harbaugh to, a 5-year multi-page contract that outlined what he's going to have responsibility for, what he's going to do. So you would have thought, okay, wouldn't you have needed to adjust Joe Schoen's contract? And while you were adjusting it to reflect the duties that you're giving to John Harbaugh, why not extend it at that point? And I don't believe they've done that. Now, unless they did an addendum that just, updated Joe Schoen's contract, which I don't know if they did or didn't, but I just found it interesting because it just sounds like John Harbaugh is going to have a lot more control than any head coach has ever had for this franchise. And how much of that's going to negate what Joe Schoen does. Now, there's also been a report, I think ESPN had it, that they're going to hire, I think it's a vice president of football operations. I don't remember the exact title, but there's going to be another layer reportedly added to the front office, which is going to report directly to John Harbaugh. So that could factor in too. And you just wonder if maybe down the line, is there going to be a restructuring, or is Joe Schoen going to be phased out? I don't know the answer to that, but these are all things to keep an eye on over the next, few months.
It's funny. Harbaugh, wants to win. All these coaches want to win. Joe Schoen wants to win, but there's urgency there from the Schoen camp because he knows if he doesn't win, he's gone. Mark.
Yeah, but it's to a point where, if they don't extend Joe Schoen, and let's say the Giants win this 1 year, then let's say they don't extend him after this 1 year. Who gets the credit? What happens after that? It makes no sense to me. So, whether they add a director of football operations or whatever, it's about winning. Who would you have? Who got you to this season if you win? Let's say you make the playoffs, and now you're going to restructure the front office and take Joe Schoen out. Who are you going to put in to make it work? I don't know. But at the end of the game, it's about winning. How you win, how you build the roster, that's on both of them at this point right now. I'm not going to worry about too much of if Joe Schoen's here or not. But as a player, which we have no say-so in that anyway, the front office got to fix that stuff themselves. But it would make a player or a free agent who's out there trying to come into this organization, if there's a great structure from the top down, including the general manager in place, that'll make a player, a free agent, more prevalent to come to work for the Giants. I hope they get that situation straightened out. But right now, I think John Harbaugh wouldn't want to, as a head coach, why would you want to worry about the front office stuff? You got your job, you got your staff. Just get the damn work. Don't worry about the other stuff. Let the general manager worry about the players he's gonna bring in. Of course, the players that he brings in he'll ask you, who do you want? Let him go do shopping for the groceries. You just coach the team. You get the things ready to go, and that's it. So hopefully they'll get this stuff situated either after the draft or before the draft, whatever. Get it situated.
All right, so now the staff is complete. And before we take a break, Patricia, your thoughts. We've got the three big keys here, obviously offense, defense, and special teams. Your thoughts or your feelings or your initial feelings about the staff, at least those three guys.
I'm optimistic. I mean, listeners know that I tend to be very optimistic until proven otherwise. I like the Chris Horton hire. I mean, he's got a track record. Denard Wilson, I did a show a few days ago about what the Giants were getting. I had Locked On Titans host Tyler Rowland come on, and he gave us a whole rundown of what went wrong in Tennessee and how some of it wasn't really Denard Wilson's fault. So I think there's promise there. And again, Denard Wilson's a guy who has worked with John Harbaugh before. I think he was his DB coach. And this Matt Nagy hire, I see a lot more good in it than I do negatives, where I'm saying, oh gosh, I wouldn't have gone in that direction. Now, if it had been Cliff Kingsbury, I might feel differently. But I kind of like, the direction that this staff is going.
Mark, your thoughts?
If the guys that he's brought in had a winning situation with him, with John Harbaugh, I'm all for it, and they all have. So I'm buying into it. So it's easy for me to say that because I've seen the success that all these guys have with John. So I'm optimistic about it, and I like it.
All right, we'll take our first quick break of the show. When we return, we'll get into Tisch, which unfortunately we've got to do. But again, some big doings this past week in Giant Country. We'll do all that next. All right, let's start with Gusto. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. No way. That's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. Gusto's automated tools like offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposits save me hours every week. All right, knowing you can reach certified HR experts anytime gives you real peace of mind. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/LockedOnNFL. Get 3 months when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/LockedOnNFL. One more time, that's gusto.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, next up is FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a very special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turned into plays, stats turned into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, you bet just $5, get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we are back. Obviously, Matt Nagy is the lead, but there was a response from the league in regards to the emails suggesting a relationship between Tisch and Epstein. Obviously, this isn't football stuff, much more serious than that. But Patricia, when this all went down, just give us your thoughts.
Yeah, disappointing, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe surprising. I mean, first off, as a woman, my thoughts are with the victims of Epstein. I mean, what he did was just, I don't have words for it. It's just really, at least no words that I can say on the air that are safe. But yeah, it was surprising. I'm at a loss because, you think of the Giants, you think of, what they stand for. And I mean, just disappointing, I guess, is the best word I could use. And it's got to get sorted out. I mean, the league at least acknowledged it. I mean, I thought their response was a little on the soft side, oh, we're going to look at the facts and then determine if we have to launch an investigation. I mean, I don't know what other facts they're looking for when you have the emails basically right there in black and white, but it is what it is, I guess.
Mark?
Yeah, it's very disappointing. It's embarrassing from a former player, and I bet as current players, they feel the embarrassment as well. So do the fans. I don't want to get in too much into it because I tend to get real mouthy at points, and I'm not ashamed to say what I really want to say, but this is not that kind of show, so I'm going to keep it there. I do hope that the league, and I watched when Roger Goodell, the question was brought to him, and he was saying, basically, we got to do our investigation or whatever. Okay, well, the league going to investigate this, and then what? Then comes the personal conduct deal that comes up as well. So it's embarrassing, and I'm just talking from on a former Giant standpoint, former player standpoint. His personal business is his personal business, but god damn, man. And other stuff's going to come out too. There's going to be some other names going to drop, but we'll just see how this thing plays out.
The key, what you said there, Mark, was the personal conduct policy. And obviously, there needs to be an investigation from the NFL standpoint. But that being said, as we took the notes for this show, revisiting the personal conduct policy, Patricia, obviously that's what comes into play here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, guys have been penalized for a lot. I don't want to say less, but I mean, be fighting with a fan or I don't want to minimize, the discretions that have popped up, but there's been guys that have been penalized for a lot less. So, the NFL personal policy has been put in place to ensure that everybody associated with the NFL adheres to certain standards. And when those standards are breached, well, now you've got to deal with it. And unfortunately, that's what it's come down to.
Mark, from a player's point of view, obviously you have relationships with multiple owners. Many owners across the NFL. But when you're in a team or a part of the team and you're an incumbent, obviously we've never had anything like this before, but when something goes wrong with an owner, a guy that you have a relationship with, that must startle the rest of the team. I mean, these are owners that players look up to, and this is just shocking, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm feeling it now as a Giant, though I live in Kansas City. For example, I go to Chiefs training camp. I do a lot of stuff in Kansas City. And I get to talk to Clark Hunt on a one-on-one basis. We talk. General manager, we all know each other. I believe it's the same in New York and with the Giants. I go to New York and I see some of the guys and I talk to John Mara. I never spoken to Steve Tisch, maybe once, maybe, I don't even remember. So we have that access. So as a player, a current player, they're closer than I am. And if it hits me this way, as disappointing and embarrassing. I've got to understand and got to know it's got to hit the players who are currently playing the same damn way. What do you do? What do you say to these guys? You still got to go on with your job because that's what we do. We got to go to our job. But it's frustrating and it's obviously embarrassing because now the players who are active players right now are getting the questions, man, how do you feel about this? What do you say? What do you do? Not to say that they're condoning the actions that are on these emails. It's just, man, damn, dude. I'm going, man, I had no idea that this is your deal. This is your thing. The accusations or whatever. It's a hard pill to swallow. But as a player, you still got to go do your job. But from that perspective, and even as a former player, it's tough to swallow. But you still got to go and do your job, and it's embarrassment. But you still got to do what you got to do.
How many times over the past, however many months we've been doing this, have we talked about a family-run business? And I'm not making any judgments. I don't know any of the facts or suggestions in any way. That being said, there's an irony there that the Giants, as we said, mold themselves as a family-run business, and rightfully so, and it's been excellent for them for a century. But this is a little bit different than that, Patricia.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's just someone allegedly falling off going astray. And it's unfortunate, like I said, because, it was surprising. I'll admit. I mean, when I saw the article, I was like, whoa, are you kidding?
Right.
Now, like Mark, I've spoken to John Mara many, many times. Lovely person. Steve Tisch, I think I've spoken to maybe a handful. But then again, John Mara has basically been the face of the franchise. And he has done it well. Unfortunately, this year, his brother Chris has had to step up because John is sick, as we know. So that doesn't mean, though, that, Steve Tisch is a bad guy. I mean, I was telling my husband, I said, Bob Tisch and Mark, I can't remember if you were with the Giants when Bob Tisch took over the team.
Mm-hmm.
What a sweetheart of a man. I mean, just a stand-up human being. And, sometimes things happen and, I don't want to pass judgment because I'm not a jury. I'm not on a jury. And I hope, if there is a jury that I won't get called for this. I don't think I would, but it's just disappointing.
All right. None of us want to talk about this anymore. So let's just move on because there's nothing we can possibly say. So in an awkward segue, we took a note about international games, and it's interesting because there'll be a game in Paris this year, the Saints, and I believe the Browns, which is just a matchup for another day. We'll discuss that. But anyways, international games, a lot on the plate of Roger Goodell. And if you're not a fan of the Europe games or anywhere else on this planet, you're not going to be a fan of the NFL moving forward because this is truly now, Patricia, an international game.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the NFL seems to have maxed out their earning potential here in the United States. So now they're branching out. And Roger Goodell in his Super Bowl presser that he does every year said the goal was to ultimately have 16 games in international markets. Now, for the Giants, I fully expect they will be one of the international games this year. Now, they have marketing rights in Germany. I suspect, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the Giants this year have 9 home games. I think one of them are going to get kicked to Germany. I don't know against who, but that would be my guess. And, it's interesting because the last time I went to an international game was actually the first one, very first one, when it was the Giants and the Dolphins, I think it was, back in 2007. And the interest at that point, a lot of, that was in London, England, and a lot of the locals were like, they were curious more so than they were, diehard fans. Oh, I got to be there. So I'd be interested in seeing how this, shapes up with the expansion into, Madrid recently. I think there's going to be an Australian game, if I'm not mistaken, the Paris game, as you mentioned. And, just to see if they can build up the market that they really desire that they have right here in the United States.
Are you comfortable with this, Mark, as a former player? Obviously, I mean, business is good, so why not try and make that business better? But that being said, do the players like it?
I think the players don't mind the travel. I played in 3 of them when I was with the Chiefs. But there's a bigger picture that a lot of the fans don't see, and maybe some of the, I think most of the pundits do see it. The NFL is about marketing, and the game is global now. And what makes it global is the connection it has with soccer. A lot of NFL owners own soccer teams in the Premier League and the MLS. So they're trying to hitch that wagon onto the NFL, the soccer deal. And that's what they're doing. And these games being played overseas or played in soccer venues. When I worked with Sky Sports, I did the play-by-play for a lot of the studio work over in London. And I fly into Heathrow, and I'm seeing Yankee stuff along with Arsenal stuff, cross-marketing. Go again in 2004, 2003, 2004. Now I'm seeing Jacksonville Jaguar stuff along with their team. The owner of the Jacksonville Jaguar owns a Premier League team. It's all marketing. The NFL is a global game now. So you saw that when they play games in Brazil. They're playing games in Germany. Now Spain. Don't be surprised if a game is being played in China. It's a global game, and they're hitching their wagon on that soccer football deal. That's what it is. If they can have an international game, a weekly game, they'll do it. Jacksonville would be the perfect way to do it, because from Jacksonville to London, they got 4 or 5 games over there already this year, not last year, whatever. It's easy to do. So it's marketing. It's money. They're getting it done, and the NFL is the only sport that can really do it. It is. I mean, NBA, they can, but the NBA is not the economic engine that runs sports. It's the NFL. It's a global deal. It's a media juggernaut. It's a game, and that's what they're doing, and they're doing it well.
And just get out of the way if you're not on board, you know, because it's coming, and it's coming hard. All right, we'll take a break, our second of the show. When we return, we'll get back to some news on some assistants. Obviously, the 3 big ones, OCDC, STC, have been filled. We'll get to some assistants. We'll do that next. All right, let's tell you about TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate. Get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. All right, we are halfway home on this New York Giants squad show. Let's talk about some more assistants. Patricia, Mark, and Jay, we are off and running. Grant Newsom, assistant O-line coach. Donald D'Alessio, defensive back coach and pass game coordinator, just to name a few. So, Patricia, as we said, not completely there, not 100% filled, but I guess the key parts are in place now.
Yeah, once you have the key parts in place, now you can start to fill out the assistants underneath them. You know, one of the things I know I kept talking about during the offensive coordinator search, if you notice, the offensive line coach job hasn't been filled. They just filled the assistant, and the assistant's role is a little different than when the main guy's role is. The assistant is basically, you know, setting up the drills, overseeing stuff. It's not so much as, you know, being the main teacher. It's like a teacher's assistant, if you will. So now that we know who the offensive coordinator is going to be, now they can hire the offensive line coach. And that guy's style obviously is going to have to fit with what Matt Nagy wants to run. So you've got that is going to fall into place. And then you're going to have a bunch of other like little assistant positions that are filled in because John Harbaugh typically has a huge staff, quality control, analysts. He's going to have analytics. I mean, you name it, he's probably going to have it. So I would expect that the rest of the positions, if they haven't already been filled, we're going to start hearing about them very quickly.
Obviously, fanboy like myself is always worried about who the head coach and who the coordinators are, but I probably know very little about the assistants to the assistants. So, Mark, how important are guys like Grant Newsome and Donald DeLessio from a player's point of view in regards to those assistant coaches?
If they have credibility in the league, it means a lot. If they don't, it still means a lot because those players who are there, who are veteran players who know how to play, they would have some. There'll be a little pushback to a point. So credibility means a lot. Now, one thing I don't know what the hell a pass game coordinator is. I really don't, because if you're a DB coach, okay, this is how over the years they start breaking stuff down. I was going to say another word. How they start breaking stuff down to the minuscule of teaching. You're a DB coach, you coach the corners and the safeties. Now they got DB coach, corners coach, and the safeties coach. Now they got corners coach, safety coach, passing game coordinator. What the hell is that? I mean, it's too many moving damn parts. Listen, when I played, and in full disclosure, me and the Chiefs defensive back coach, we're good friends. And it's my cigar smoking buddy. So anyway, I'll leave it there. I'm going to say any names. You'll look it up. And we talk. I'm going, what does a passing game coordinator do? I could go in and coach the defensive backs. I could coach the corners. I could coach the safeties because I played both. I made all-pro at both positions. So my credibility is well documented. I don't know. I always cut you off, Jay, but I don't know what the hell. What do they do? Somebody look, contact me and tell me what they do, because it's just stupid to me. So I'll leave it there. I got off on a tangent. Go ahead, Jay.
No, I was going to say, you're absolutely right, because those coaches didn't exist for the 86 Giants or the 85 Bears. So why would what has happened in the last generation and a half to make it so specific that they need these coaches?
Tell us, Patricia. Tell me.
I mean, this is just a guess, all right? They can break things down like, okay, and I don't know exactly what, let's say, a cornerback's coach teaches, all right? But they can break things down to the minuscule details, from angles to how far off they should play off a receiver.
Oh, Jesus. No.
I
no.
know. I'm just telling you.
I know.
What I believe it is. But see, there's kind of an advantage that I think you guys are missing out on here. And that is, when you have a lot on your plate, and I'm not saying it's difficult to coach the DBs, both the corners and the safeties, but you break it up. Now you can kind of really hone in and say, because during the season, do those guys have a lot of time? If you're taking bad angles or if your technique is off, are they going to necessarily correct it as long as, the stuff is going to be done? The plays are going to be made? Probably not, unless it becomes a recurring problem. So now you've got quality control, you got passing game coordinators, you got all these lower level assistants who can hone in on a specific area to make sure everything is as close to perfect as can be.
I get it. But you know who did that back in the day when I played? Me. The player. The player take the
era, though.
But the player take the onus on themselves to know, hey, you know what? I know in this coverage, because I've done it. I'm watching practice film. Lawrence and Leonard and Carl, those guys rush to practice, the passer in practice. And then we watch games about, let's say we're playing St. Louis or Philadelphia, the Cardinals after day in those times, or whoever. I'm watching on the particular coverage what Lawrence and Banks and Jim Burt and Eric Howard, these guys, Linda March, are doing on this coverage. And I'm going, you know what? This play is lasting. They're getting to the quarterback in 2.5, 3 seconds. So I know I can press bail on this knowing that the pressure is going to be there. Or I can play from cover 2. I can play from 4 yards, and I can go back to 6 and make it to a cover 4 and run off, and knowing that pressure will get there. That's analytics that I studied. So I'm like, this is on the player. Now, if you just want to give a coach a job and give that a coach do that for the player, fine. But the onus is on the player to know what he has to do in certain situations. That's my analytics. That's self-taught analytics by studying film. I don't need a pass coordinating coach to do that for me. Because if you get a coach to do that for you, you are not doing the job, the work that you need to do to play in that position. That's all I'm saying. So, that's me. I've done it, and I've done it, and I know a lot of DBs done it too back in the day.
But here's the thing, Mark. Back in the day, let me ask you something. How many of your teammates, including yourself, maybe there were a few, but how many of your teammates were worried about your personal brand? You were worried about football. That was your job. You look at today's athletes, it's a whole different genre of athletes. I mean, think about it. You got guys doing commercials left and right. Yeah. You got guys worrying about their brand, their merchandise, their websites, their social media, this, that, and the other thing. I'm not saying that. I mean, your era, the golden era, it's a lost era. And I appreciate that era. And I'm not trying to make an excuse for this, but you've got a lot of kids, and especially now with the NILs in college, these kids don't worry about the finer details of doing their job and becoming the best possible player they need to be. They need to have their hands held a little bit more than I think back in the day when you were a player.
Yeah, but I get that as well. But even in business and just in life, you want to control what you can control. By how you do that is based on studying. You study. When I owned sporting goods stores and restaurants, did I count every patty? Yeah. I had to count what came in, what went out. I didn't leave all that to a quality control burger counter. Or when I owned sporting goods stores, I knew I had an allocation of Jordan shoes. Okay, I knew I had 40 coming in. How many went out? I didn't rely on that to let somebody do that for me. That's on a smaller scale. But still, in football, when I played corner, I knew Lawrence Taylor's going to get to this quarterback in a certain amount of seconds. So I can play off at 8 yards and sit because I know that ball's coming quick. All right? If we're in zero coverage and I know we're playing the San Francisco 49ers and we got a certain call going, okay, I know Lawrence is going to get there and Carl going to get there and Banks, these guys going to get there. I can line up and cover zero inside leverage, bump and run, and then press bail, get out of there, and be out of there within 3 or 4 yards before the ball snapped, and go and cover my man from off. That's what I learned. I don't need a pass game coordinator telling me that, because that pass game coordinator, whoever they bring in, if he hasn't played that position, it doesn't do any good. If it's a college guy a whiz kid guy who's never done it, it wouldn't make a damn bit of difference. If it's coming from me or Emerson Walls or Perry Williams or Darrell Revis, yeah, okay, cool, I get it. That's a whole different deal. But that player still has to learn how to do it himself. That's all I'm saying. So
I agree with you. Yeah. I absolutely agree with you. It's just that this era of players is different from when you.
Yeah, I agree. You're right.
I've had Brandon Jacobs and I had a conversation about this, and he even said the same thing to me. He says it's just a different genre of players that are more reliant on business managers and social media managers and all this stuff, all of which didn't really exist back in your day and his day for that matter. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I just don't know what the hell they do, but
I agree.
I don't know. But I still put the onus on the player to learn what is coming at them. Like, I'll see a formation, and I know a formation back. That's what I do. I know formations. I know what's coming out of it. Mm-hmm. So that's learning. Instead of lining up, okay, I got to be at 7 yards. I got my man. I got my responsibility. Well, if you just expand that thought to know what the back formations are, to know receiver split, and to know read the linemen with how they stand, their posture is, and down in distance, and all this other stuff, that makes you a better player. So, Patricia, I'm not all negative. I'm just saying I'll put the onus on the players to learn to know more of what they're doing instead of having some kind of assistant to the assistant coordinator, according to the control guy, to give you that kind of knowledge.
Amen. I'm with you.
This is such a much more interesting conversation than anything about any emails or punishment or anything like that. We could do this for an hour. I just want to listen to you guys speak. Anyways, we'll take our last break of the show. When we come back, we've done this in the past, in a recent past, but we need to do it again, and that's address the Giants cap situation because, as you know, it's not good. Anyways, we'll do that coming up next. All right, let's talk about BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. February can be a lot. Flowers, candy, stuffed animals, and so much to talk about. Well, it can honestly feel like everyone else has it all together in their love life except you. But here's the truth. Whether you're married, dating, single, or just focusing on you, most people are still figuring it out. And no matter where you are in your romantic journey, therapy can help find your way. It can help you get clear on what you want, what feels heavy, and how to take some pressure off yourself. It's easy to assume everyone else has the perfect relationship, but most people are working through something. Therapy can help you recognize patterns that might be weighing relationships down. It can help you communicate better, set healthier boundaries, and stop carrying everything alone. And even if you're not in a relationship right now, therapy can help you feel more confident in what you want moving forward. The biggest thing, it reminds you that you're not behind, you're right on time. BetterHelp has licensed therapists in the U.S., and they do the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your goals. And if you want to switch therapists, you can do that at any time. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BETTERHELP.com/lockedon. All right, show's moving quickly. We have a little less than 15 minutes to go here. We talked about the salary cap boom, and obviously the number goes up as it did every year. I'm not exactly sure what the number is, but it's gone up.
Yep.
That's a good thing because the Giants need help, Patricia.
Yeah, they do. The cap situation for the Giants, it could be fixed. All right. It could be fixed. But the latest numbers now from Over the Cap, which I think has updated their data to reflect the projected middle ground, which is $303.5 million. The Giants overall have 6.947 total, but they are still in the red for effective cap space by negative 3.151. Effective cap space is what they're going to need to sign guys under the top 51 rule, which starts on the first day of the new league year, which is basically the start of free agency and trades and all that stuff. So they still have some work to do with the salary cap. Now, one of the things I do when I look at the cap, and I look at the cap quite often, the Giants are kind of top heavy right now. We have about 10 guys who have cap figures of 10 plus million. Now, they also have 4 guys right now who are 24 plus million. They're going to need to do some stuff. Now, obviously, the first thing they're going to do, they're going to trim some of the fat off. They're going to get rid of the contracts of the guys that aren't in the plans for the long term, whether that be Devin Singletary, Graham Gano, possibly Bobby Okereke. I don't know if he's going to make the cut or not. Maybe John Runyon Jr. I mean, there's guys that, James Hudson's another one. They're going to get some of that money back, and that'll straighten out the effective cap space. But there's going to still need to be some restructurings. And, for the life of me, please start using voidable years because it does make a difference. Voidable years, the Eagles use it all the time. For all you who always say to me, how do the Eagles have so much cap space? Because they use voidable years, which helps depreciate the amount of dead money that maybe looks like 5 million today, but in 2 years when the cap goes up, maybe instead of 5% of the cap, now it becomes 3% of your cap. So hopefully the Giants start doing that.
Yeah, this is where the rubber meets the road here, Mark. We obviously needed to, one, for Harbaugh to get the job, two, hire his assistants. Now he needs to get to work on that salary cap.
Yeah, some of those guys won't be there. Those are cap casualties. But, as far as the avoidable years, I mean, being a former, and I'm still a union guy, I want all the players to make all the money they can. So when you do avoidable years, the players must get as much money as they can up front. So when you do that, and how they structure it, but the back end of the quarter of the contract, that's a whole different story. The avoidable years, hopefully those avoidable years are not, $10, $12 million a year. Maybe they're 5, 6, 7, whatever. But get as much money as you can up front. But anyway, I digress. Some of those guys won't be there. That's a given. Who do you keep? Who do you keep that you could restructure the contract to keep you under the cap? And who are those players? Will those players will want to stay under the restructured deal? And when they do it, how much money can they get up front and make those voidable years in the end, on the back end, less, so the Giants in year 3, 4, 5 of those voidable years, the salaries are cap friendly. So you won't be a cap casualty, you get kicked out, so whatever. But that's another conversation. But it's a situation where they got to get it done. So there's going to be some heartache in it from the players and some from the fans. There's going to be some sad goodbyes. But again, it's a business. And if those players could go somewhere else and make good money, by all means do it, because the guillotine is coming. So, and that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, with the contracts, though, it's all about the guaranteed money. That's where they get their money. So, you mentioned guys who are going to be cut. I mean, the first place, and I recommend if the listeners out there, check out Over the Cap, find any contract where a player doesn't have guaranteed money due this year. Those are probably going to be the guys that are going to be targeted for restructures, one of which is Dexter Lawrence, who no longer has any guaranteed money left. Andrew Thomas does, but he doesn't have anything left after, I think, after this year. So there's going to be some restructures, but the guaranteed money is where it's at, because obviously the money's guaranteed. So it doesn't matter if the back end of your contract gets looped off, as long as you're getting a certain percentage of the overall deal guaranteed and in your pocket.
But they're going to have to take, if they have to, those guys are restructured and they agree to it, that restructure, let's say, I don't know what Dexter's contract, but the restructure, they got to get that guaranteed money in the signing bonus. They got to redo the whole contract. So that money's got to come up front. So that restructure starts with that. So Dexter, let's say arbitrary numbers. Okay, let's say you got arbitrary number, 30 million in guaranteed money on this contract. Let's take that 30 million. Let's take 30 million. Let's put 25 in guaranteed money, or to stretch out more, 25 guaranteed money in the signing bonus, and that 5 we can take it all the way out to another 2 or 3 years. That's how they're going to restructure it. And those are arbitrary numbers. But whatever that money is, that guaranteed money that year, that money is going to be in the signing bonus. So that's your guaranteed money. And the rest is going to be in salary. How long they want to take it out, 2 or 3 years down the road.
You can stretch out a signing bonus up to 5 years. That's
okay.
The max. So even if a guy, Dexter Lawrence has 3 more years left to his deal. So you can say, okay, we're going to restructure X number of that millions of dollars, and we're going to give you a signing bonus. Now you get 5 fresh years to add on to that. So a lot of teams, I mean, that's how Andrew Thomas's contract was initially set up. Andrew Thomas had, I think, the back 3 years of his contract had no signing bonus, no guaranteed money. So they did that with the idea of, okay, we might have to push money into the future. It's not something you want to do all the time. It's not a habit you want to get into, but it is a mechanism that will help you spread out the cap and make it a little bit more friendly.
Yeah, you guys know a lot more about this stuff than I do. I'm, again, just fanboy. That being said, I know that John Harbaugh and Joe Schoen have some hard decisions to make, decisions that, incumbents aren't going to like, whether you are one of the cuts or not. That I do know. It's going to be difficult, Patricia.
Yeah, you got to decide which of the pending free agents you want back. That's always going to be difficult. Now, John Harbaugh has said that, he wants guys who are system flexible, not specific to a system. So if your strength coming in was as a press man corner and you can't play zone, you probably are not going to have a place on this team. You all know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
I do think they keep them, but anyway. So now you've got to decide, okay, let's take Jermaine Illuminor, for example. Now, I know the fans all want Jermaine back. I like Jermaine. I hope he comes back. But realistically speaking, they did draft Marcus Bowe with the idea that, okay, maybe he's going to, succeed Jermaine at right tackle if he works out, which so far he has. He's played decently. That being said, you have to decide, okay, do we want to spend big money to bring back Jermaine Illuminor, or can we use that money to maybe re-sign Wan'Dale Robinson and Cordell Flott and add another receiver, or add, a free agent, maybe Tyler Linderbaum from the Ravens? So these are the types of decisions you have to really weigh, and they're not easy because there's pros and cons to each, and they go beyond the dollars and the cents.
Go ahead, Mark.
Well, they're going to have to make a decision pretty damn quick, because if they keep Luminor or they want to get rid of him, they got to do it before. I forget the date.
The first day of the new league year, which is March 17th, I think.
I thought it was June, whatever. Yeah, so they got to make a decision. So, but there's going to be some stuff happening pretty damn quick. And honestly, and it works best for both. Works best for the player. If they let him go earlier, he could go find another team. It works best for the team. They can also get who they want in free agency, or the player they already have on the roster, to get them implemented and get going. So it works best for both. But either way, there's going to be some changes coming, and really the sooner the better.
The first chapter of this offseason so far has really been about the coaches and the staff and everybody filling out in the future of the coaching staff and such. But obviously now, as we said, where the rubber meets the road, it's about the players. It's about the roster. So things are going to change in Giant country, from hiring coaches to hiring and firing players. A very different chapter, if you will, Patricia.
I mean, it's something we see every year if you think about it, but especially when a new coach comes in, he wants his guys. I mean, we saw it with Joe Judge when he came in. He brought down a bunch of new Patriots. We saw it with Brian Dable. Remember all the Buffalo Bills that dotted the roster?
Yeah.
I suspect we will see it with John Harbaugh with a bunch of Ravens. And is that really a bad thing? Well, if they're coming from a winning program, a successful program, I don't think it's a bad thing. And if nothing else, we use this term a lot, and I think it's overused. And I don't know if this is one of Mark's favorite words, but we use the word culture a lot. And I always equate a new coach coming in to, like, again, you open up a franchise, a restaurant, and corporate sends down the trainers and says, okay, this is the quality we want. This is the message we want. This is how we want everything run. That's what some of those guys that you bring over from your previous team are brought in to do, to help with. And then eventually the team becomes, familiar with what the coach wants. And then now you have your leadership councils and everybody's on the same page, and you can go forth and hopefully have success. But there is that period of transition where you're going to have some guys who are maybe, oh gosh, what's going to be different? What's going to change? And I talked to some of those guys, at the end of the season. I said, so, changes are coming. And some of them were like, yeah, changes got me scared. And some of them are like, whatever happens, happens. So
Right. Mark?
Yeah, that atmosphere is coming. I don't like the word culture, because culture could go many different ways. But when you like I said before, you saw the atmosphere change when John Harbaugh was introduced. It was just totally changed. It's going to change upstairs. It's going to change in the locker room. It's going to change on the field. And whenever you have that winning atmosphere, and a guy who walks in and can present that, and the surrounding people he has surrounding him, it's a great feeling. It feels so good. You like going into the locker room. You like going to the stadium. You love going to work. Who wants to go to work in a bad atmosphere? It just drags on you. And then you take that stuff home with you. And then you kick your dog. You yell at the spouse. Nobody wants that stuff. You want a clean atmosphere. You want, when that happens, you're winning at work, you're winning at home, you're winning in life. That's what you want. That's what I'm hoping the Giants would bring, what John Harbaugh would bring.
All right. Unfortunately, we're done for today. No more emails, nothing else. We're done for today. But that being said, we're back with you in about 48 hours, 47 hours now to be exact, 1 o'clock Eastern time on Thursday. Again, it's been a tumultuous week in Giant country, but then again, that makes for good shows. For Patricia and Mark, I'm Jay. We'll see you Thursday. God bless.